How is it that all the past Buddhas expressed themselves against money and sex, which are the sources of worldly pleasures? You are perhaps the first Buddha to stand by all of them together, pleasure, happiness, and bliss, which is causing so much misunderstanding and opposition in your case. Did the past Buddhas try to compromise with tradition and to play for safety?
Anand Maitreya there are many things to be understood. One, all the past Buddhas came from the royal families. They have enjoyed money, they have enjoyed sex, they have lived in the most luxurious way possible. And still they found a deep emptiness inside themselves. They made their own experience as if it is a fundamental principle for all human beings. All human beings are not born in royal families. They don't have the chance of experiencing money, sex, and other pleasures of the outside world. Because they were frustrated, the money was not fulfilling, the sex was superficial, all the pleasures were repetitive and became routine. They were utterly bored. They renounced the world. Because of their renunciation of the world and going into the forest and the mountains, a fallacy arose that perhaps unless you renounce the world and worldly pleasures, you cannot become awakened, you cannot become enlightened. Their individual experience they made it into an universal principle. It is a human tendency. It still persists. For example, only psychologically sick people went to Sigmund Freud. Obviously, who is healthy mentally has no need to go to Sigmund Freud. He came across only the sick people. And he spread the principle to whole humanity. as if everybody is sick. He knew only the dreams of the sick people, and he thought all dreams are repressive. In his experience, that was so, but his experience is not universal. It happens with you too. A very basic human fallacy. You come across a Mohammedan and he cheats you, or a Hindu and he deceives you, and immediately you jump to the conclusion that no Hindu is worth believing, that no Mohammedan should ever be trusted. A single instance becomes to you indicative of the universal. In fact, all the past Buddhas support my thesis. Of course, they were not aware of it. What I am saying is, unless you are deeply acquainted with the outer world, unless you have been a Zorba in totality and intensity, there is no possibility for you to become a Buddha. It was fortunate for Gautam Buddha to be born as a prince. All the beautiful women of his kingdom were made available to him, and the most beautiful woman he married. But just when he was 29 years old, he became so frustrated he was intelligent enough to see that now my whole life is going to be just a routine. More women, more wine, more delicious food, but I am acquainted with it all. It is his intelligence to see that all his tomorrows have already become yesterdays. There is no future, and he is utterly empty. He has to go in search of something which fulfills his inner being. My thesis is very simple and supported by all the awakened people of the past. Mahavira and all the 24 great masters of Jainism were born in royal families. One never asks, why all your 24 masters were born in the richest and the most luxurious atmosphere. Why not a beggar became a Buddha? And why not a man who was starving became a Buddha? All the Hindu incarnations of God belong to the royal families. And Buddha himself not a single poor man has been accepted by Hindus or Jainas or Buddhists as enlightened. This supports my thesis. I have been saying to you that because Gautam Buddha renounced the world, first you have to live the world to be capable of renouncing it. How can you renounce something which you don't have? You have to be so frustrated, so nauseated with the outside pleasures that they become almost pain, anxiety, and anguish. Only then you can turn inwards. But all these Buddhas of the past had fallen to the human fallacy. They spread their own experience. They thought perhaps a starving person, a person who has never known any pleasure in his life, will also understand them. And the result has been a tremendous calamity. The poor in the East have remained poor, thinking that what is the point of achieving wealth? What is the point of attaining to luxury? Because they have seen all those great enlightened people renouncing luxury. So perhaps they are in a better position. Already they are poor. Buddha became a beggar by renouncing his kingdom. But do you think he is the same kind of beggar, can be put in the same category in which any other beggar who has never known anything of delicious food, of a beautiful woman, of a palace, of all the joys that are possible? On the surface, they both will look like the same. Both are having the begging bowl. But they are not the same. They belong to totally different categories. I would like you to belong to the category of the Buddha. But first he was a Zorba, and only then he became a Buddha. And the other has never been the experiencer of outside reality. He can only repress his sex. He is not frustrated with it. Buddha has no need to repress. He has lived it, overlived it. Otherwise, in 29 years, one does not renounce the world. The story is that when he was born, all the astrologers of his kingdom was called, because he was the only son and he was born in the old age of the king. And he wanted exactly what his life is going to be. And all the astrologers were puzzled. And nobody was ready to say something. The king was very much in difficulty that why don't you say something? Even if it is a bad news, at least don't keep me into confusion. Say it. Then the youngest of them spoke. He said the problem they all are facing is that he has not a fixed destiny. There is an alternative destiny, and that is a very rare case we have never come across. And it is expected that we should say to you what is going to happen to him. But he has an alternative destiny, two destinies. Either he will become a world conqueror, a Chakravartin, or he will become a renouncer of the world. And there are extreme polarities. And we have not been able to find which one is weightier. Both are of equal weight. So we cannot say anything definitively. All that we can say that these are the two alternatives. Either he will become the greatest emperor the world has known, or he will become one of the greatest enlightened person the world has known. In any case, he will be one of the greatest person. But whether he will be a beggar or an emperor, it is beyond our understanding and our science. The king was also puzzled. He was his only son. He has been conquering new lands. He has made a very big kingdom. And the only successor has an alternative destiny. He asked the astrologers, help me, advise me, what should be done so that he never renounces the world and conquers the world. That has been my dream whole life. He is going to be a fulfillment of my dream. He is my child. He has brought my dream in his heart. Just tell me how to prevent him from renouncing the world. And the ordinary logic, they all suggested. The ordinary logic destroyed the whole thing. They said that surround him with as much luxury and comfort as possible, so he never feels the miseries of life. Gather around him the most beautiful girls, so he never feels any sexual deprivation. Make beautiful palaces for him in different places of your kingdom for different seasons, so that he never feels that it is too much hot or too much cold or too much rain. They went into every detail how his life should be guided. Even dead leaves should be removed in the night from his gardens. He should never see a dead leaf, because one never knows. He may start asking what has happened to the leaf. He should never see a leaf which is becoming pale, old, ready to die. In the night, all the flowers which are going to die soon should be removed. No old man, old woman should be allowed to enter into his palaces. And whenever he passes from the roads, arrangements should be made that he never comes across a dead body or across a sannyasi. And all these preparations were done. And the old king managed everything that the astrologers has said. But the ordinary logic is not the only logic. There is a transcendental logic which they were not aware of. I would not have suggested this. I would have told him, let him live like an ordinary human being. Let him strive for comfort, don't give it to him. Let him strive to find a beautiful woman, don't just gather women like cattle around him. Let him know the pains of desire and longing and passion. Perhaps he would have never renounced the world, because he would have never come to know the world in its reality so soon. Those 29 years were almost equal perhaps to 200 or 300 years. Even in 300 years, you may not be able to attain all that luxury that was showered on him. And that was the cause that he renounced the world, seeing that it is all superficial and routine. Seeing one dead man And in 29 years, he has not seen even a dead leaf. If he has seen from his very childhood that people die, he would have become accustomed. But for 29 years, he has never thought about death. The very idea was not a question to him. But how long you can prevent? One day he came to see a dead man, and the whole palace of playing cards that his father has made collapsed. He asked his charioteer, "What has happened to this man?" He said, "Master, I am not supposed to tell you, but I cannot lie you either. This man is dead." And immediately the question was asked, which ordinarily you don't ask. Immediately he asked, "Is this the destiny of every man? Am I also going to die one day?" And just when the charioteer was saying, "There is no way to avoid death, even to you, it will happen," a sannyasin passed by. And he has never seen an orange-robed sannyasin. And he asks, "What type of man is this? What has happened to him?" And the charioteer said, "He has also become aware of death, old age, and he has renounced the world. He is going in search of that which never dies." They were going to participate in a youth festival. Gautam Buddha said to his charioteer, "Turn the charioteer back. For me, now there is no youth festival. I am old, I am dead. Just take me back home." And that very night he escaped from the kingdom. The charioteer was an old man, a very faithful servant of the king. He tried to persuade him. He said, "There is no way. If you cannot prevent old age, don't try to persuade me. If you cannot prevent death, don't try to persuade me. I am going in search of that which never dies." So it is a double fallacy. Buddha renounced and he found the truth. And he also must have thought that it is because of renunciation that he has found the truth. That is not the case. It is because of his luxurious life that the search began, because luxury has failed, money has deceived, palaces became empty, kingdom became meaningless, conquering the whole became pointless. If you are going to die, what is the point of bothering, killing millions of people, and in the end, your hands are empty? So he himself thought that renouncing the kingdom has been helpful in finding the truth. But he forgot one thing, that everybody does not have a kingdom. And his fallacy became an universal fallacy. Others who don't have kingdoms, they started moving into mountains, into forests, into isolation,